people wake up in the morning and immediately reach for their phone. They check their emails, their social media, and their texts. In that single moment, they are reconnecting to their past. They are thinking about their problems, which are connected to certain people in certain places at certain times. But the successful individual, the one who truly masters their destiny, understands that to change your life, you must change your energy. You cannot create a new future while feeling the same emotions of the past. To truly understand what it means to cross the river of change, you must first recognize that most of your day is a feat of memorization. By the time you are 30, 5 years old, 5% of who you are is a set of memorized behaviors, emotional reactions, unconscious habits, and conditioned beliefs that function like a computer program. You wake up in the morning and you go through a series of routine actions. You check your phone, you go to the bathroom, you drink your coffee, you take a shower, and you drive to work using the same route. You are essentially a biological machine running on the past. Your body has become the mind because it is performing these actions without your conscious involvement. When you decide to change, when you decide that you are going to think and act differently than you did yesterday, you are stepping out of the known and into the unknown. This is what it means to cross the river. The known is the familiar territory of your old self, your old habits, and your old personality. It is comfortable, even if it is miserable, because it is predictable. Unknown is the space where all things are possible, but because it is not predictable, the body begins to rebel. The moment you decide to break a habit or change a thought pattern, your body sends a signal to your brain saying, "Wait a minute! We aren't doing the same thing we've done for the last 10 years! This feels dangerous!" This is the point of no return for most people. The body starts to influence the mind with thoughts like, "Start tomorrow. This doesn't feel right. I'm not good enough," or "It's too hard." These thoughts are simply the body's way of trying to return to the chemical state it is used to. You see, your emotions are the end products of past experiences. If you have been living in stress or frustration for years, your body has become addicted to the rush of cortisol and an adrenaline that those emotions provide. When you try to change, you are essentially going through a chemical withdrawal. River of change is that turbulent crossing where the old self is dying and the new self has not yet been born. Successful people are the ones who understand that this discomfort is not a signal to stop, but a signal that change is actually occurring. They realize that the void, that empty, uncertain space between the two shores, is the only place where true creation happens. If you can predict your future based on your past, you are still in the old self. You feel uncertain, and you don't know what's going to happen next. You are finally in the position to create something new. Most people, however, get halfway across the river, feel the cold water of uncertainty, and turn back to the shore of the familiar. Rather be unhappy in a way they understand than be happy in a way that is unfamiliar. To successfully cross this river, you have to be willing to be no one, no body, in no place, and in no time. You have to strip away the identity of being a mother, a father, a CEO, or a person with a specific bank account balance. You have to become pure consciousness. When you are in that state, you are no longer defined by your external environment, no longer reacting to the boss you dislike or the bills you have to pay. Instead, you are beginning to fire and wire new neural pathways in your brain. You are literally retooling your biology to match a new vision of your life. The crossing requires a level of awareness that most people never cultivate. You have to become so conscious of your unconscious thoughts that they no longer slip past your awareness unnoticed. You have to catch yourself in the act of complaining, blaming, or making excuses. You have to observe the feeling of unworthiness or lack as if you are an outsider looking in. When you do this, you are no longer the program, you are the programmer. You are the observer of the self. Is the moment you begin to reclaim your power from the environment in the past. As you navigate the deepest part of the river, the biological changes begin to happen. Your genes start to express themselves in new ways because you are giving them new signals. You are no longer living by the survival emotions of the past, but by the creative emotions of the future. The body eventually realizes that the mind is the master, and it stops resisting. It begins to follow the new lead. Transition is a death of the old personality, and it is the most courageous act a human being can perform. It is the refusal to be defined by the limitations of yesterday and the commitment to stay in the fire of transformation until the new self is forged. Who finish the crossing find that they are no longer the person they were when they started. They have physically and energetically evolved. To master the art of thinking greater than you feel, You must first come to the realization that your feelings and emotions are almost exclusively the end products of past experiences. When you are in the midst of a feeling, you are literally thinking in the past. If you cannot think greater than how you feel, if you believe that your feelings are the truth of your reality, then you are perpetually creating more of the past in your future. This is the fundamental trap of the human condition: the body becomes the mind. For the majority of people, the body has been conditioned through years of repetitive thoughts and emotional cycles to be the seat of their identity. When you wake up in the morning and begin to feel the weight of your responsibilities, the bitterness of a past betrayal, anxiety of a future deadline, you are allowing your body to dictate your state of being. You are essentially letting your biology tell your brain what is possible and what is not. Successful individuals operate on a completely different frequency because they have learned to exert a level of will that is greater than their physiological impulses. They understand that the body is like a trained animal. It wants to stay in the familiar. The familiar is painful. The body craves the chemical rush of the emotions it has memorized. If you have spent years feeling victimized or feeling like you are lacking, your cells have actually developed receptors for those specific stress hormones. When you decide to change your life and think in terms of abundance or power, your body goes into a state of panic because it is no longer receiving its usual fix of negative chemicals. It sends a message to the brain saying that you are out of balance, tries to force you back into the old state of being through the medium of a feeling. This is why change is so difficult. It is not a lack of intelligence, it is a physiological battle. To think greater than you feel is to become the master of your internal environment regardless of the external circumstances. It means that when you feel tired, you choose to be disciplined. When you feel afraid, you choose to be courageous. When you feel small, you choose to expand your vision. This requires a profound level of self-awareness. You have to sit with yourself and realize that the I who is feeling the fear is not the same I, who is the architect of your destiny. Begin to treat your body like a servant to your mind rather than the master of it. If you can sit in a chair and command your body to stay still while you focus your mind on a new vision, you are beginning to break the habit of being yourself. You are telling the body that it is no longer the mind and that you are the one in control. This process involves the deliberate use of the frontal lobe, the CEO of the brain. The frontal lobe has the capacity to look at the rest of the brain and decide what thoughts are worth paying attention to and which ones are just old programs. When you start to think greater than you feel, you are using the frontal lobe to silence the emotional centers of the brain that are screaming for the past. You are essentially saying to your biology that your vision of the future is more real than the feelings of the present. It's not just a psychological trick, it is a neurological overhaul. You are literally pruning away the synaptic connections that keep you tethered to your old self, and you are sprouting new connections that represent the person you are becoming. Most people wait for an external event to change how they feel. They think that when they get the money, they will feel abundant. They think that when they find the partner, they will feel loved. But the secret of the elite mind is that they create the feeling first. They understand that the environment is a reflection of their internal state. If you wait for the world to change before you change how you feel, you are a victim to the world. But if you change how you feel through the power of your thought, you are the creator of your world. This means you must cultivate the emotion of your success before it has even manifested in the physical realm. You must feel the gratitude, the empowerment, freedom of your goal so deeply that your body begins to believe it is already living in that future reality. When your body believes it is in a new reality because you are thinking greater than you feel, it begins to change its gene expression to match that new state. You are no longer signaling the genes of stress and survival. You are signaling the genes of growth and repair. You are moving from living in survival to living in creation. It requires you to stay in the present moment and refuse to be seduced by the familiar feelings of the past. It is an act of total presence. You catch yourself slipping into an old emotional pattern, and you consciously pull yourself back into your new vision. You are winning the battle. You are reclaiming the energy that was once bound to your past, and you are using it to build a new future. You are demonstrating to the field of infinite possibilities that you are no longer defined by your history, but by your intention. This is the hallmark of every great mind in history. They possessed a vision that was so clear and so emotionally charged that it became more real to them than the world they saw with their eyes. They refused to let the limitations of their physical senses or the complaints of their physical body dictate what was possible. They lived in a state of mental and emotional rehearsal until the external world had no choice but to reorganize itself to match their internal blueprint. The concept of brain and heart coherence is the ultimate gateway to mastering your reality because it bridges the gap between the physical and the metaphysical. Most people spend their lives in a state of incoherence, where their thoughts are moving in one direction and their feelings are dragging them in another. When you are under the gun of the stress response, living in survival mode, your brain is firing in a fragmented, disorganized fashion, what we call high beta brain wave activity. In this state, your brain is trying to predict every possible worst-case scenario to keep you safe from a perceived threat. You are focusing on your problems, your enemies, your bank account, and the ticking clock. Your attention is divided among all these external elements. Your brain begins to fire like a lightning storm without any rhythm or order. You are essentially driving your car with one foot on the gas and the other on the brake. Incoherence consumes a massive amount of energy, leaving you exhausted, frustrated, and disconnected from your creative power. But the successful individual understands that power lies in order, and order begins in the heart. The heart is the center of the self, and it possesses its own sophisticated nervous system. When you intentionally shift your focus away from the external world and toward the space of your heart, you begin to change the rhythm of your life. Breathing deeply and cultivating elevated emotions like gratitude, appreciation, or compassion, you trigger a state of heart coherence. In this state, the heart beats in a consistent, rhythmic, and mathematical pattern. This isn't just a metaphor, it is a measurable physiological shift. The heart begins to produce a powerful electromagnetic field that can be felt several feet away from the body. This field acts as a carrier wave for your intentions. When your heart is coherent, sends a signal directly to the brain, telling the nervous system that it is safe to create. As the heart moves into coherence, the brain follows suit. The heart's rhythm pulls the brain into a state of alpha, or even theta waves, where the analytical mind slows down and the two hemispheres of the brain begin to communicate with one another. This is called brain coherence. When the left and right sides of your brain are synchronized, you no longer see the world through the lens of separation or competition. You see through the lens of wholeness. You become more intuitive, more creative, and more present. This is the state of flow that athletes and visionaries describe when time seems to disappear and they are capable of performing extraordinary feats with effortless ease. They aren't trying to make it happen, are allowing it to happen because they have unified their internal energy. When you have both heart and brain coherence, you are no longer a victim of your environment. You are broadcasting a signature into the quantum field that is distinct and powerful. Think of your thoughts as the electrical charge that sends a signal out into the field, and your emotions as the magnetic charge that draws experiences back to you. If your thoughts are incoherent and your emotions are based in stress, you are sending a mixed signal that creates a chaotic life. But when you marry a clear intention, a coherent thought with an elevated emotion, a coherent heart, you create a state of being that is truly magnetic. You begin to draw opportunities, coincidences, lucky breaks to you because you are energetically aligned with the future you desire. You are no longer chasing your dreams. You are becoming the magnet that attracts them. Synchronization requires you to stop being a somebody who is obsessed with the material world and start being a nobody who's tapped into the unified field. You have to be willing to sit in the stillness and do the work of regulating your internal state, regardless of what is happening in your business, your relationships, or your health. If you can maintain this coherence while the world around you is in chaos, you have mastered yourself. You have moved out of the survival emotions of the whole self, which are always trying to protect you from the past, and into the creative emotions of the new self. In this state, you realize that the distance between your thought and the manifestation of that thought is shortening. You are functioning as a creator rather than a reactor. The beauty of this coherence is that it is a skill that can be developed, not a gift reserved for the elite. It is a biological birthright. Every time you choose to drop into your heart and find a sense of peace and wholeness before your external life has changed, you are practicing this coherence. You are teaching your body what the future feels like. You are essentially telling your nervous system that the success you seek is already here. This is the secret of the masters. They don't wait for the success to feel the joy so deeply that the success becomes an inevitable shadow of their internal state. When your heart and brain are speaking the same language, you are operating with the full power of your biology and your spirit. You are no longer divided against yourself. You are a unified force of nature, and in that unity, there is no limit to what you can project into the world and what the world can reflect back to you in return. The power of mental rehearsal as a primary tool for transformation lies in the profound biological fact that your brain and body do not know the difference between an actual experience you are having in your physical reality and an experience you are fabricating through the power of thought and emotion alone. People use their imagination to rehearse their worst-case scenarios. They spend their time mentally practicing failure, rejection, and struggle. They are so good at this that they have conditioned their nervous system to stay in a state of high alert, physically preparing for a disaster that hasn't even happened yet. However, the successful individual understands that the mind is a portal to the future. Use mental rehearsal to install the neurological hardware required to become the person they desire to be before the physical manifestation occurs. When you sit down and close your eyes to mentally rehearse an action or a way of being, you are engaging the same neurological circuits that you would use if you were actually performing that action. If you focus intensely enough on the what and the how of your future, the brain begins to fire new sequences and new patterns. Repeat this process over and over. Those sequences begin to form long-term relationships. You are essentially pruning away the old neural pathways of the old self and building a new architectural map of the new self. If you do this with enough passion and enough frequency, your brain will physically look as though the experience has already happened. You have moved from just thinking about a new reality to literally changing the physical structure of your brain to accommodate it. But the secret to making mental rehearsal work isn't just in the visualization, it is in the emotional integration. If you are just seeing pictures in your head, but your body is still feeling the same old emotions of boredom or doubt, you are not sending a unified signal to the field. To truly rehearse a new reality, teach your body emotionally what that future will feel like. You have to experience the thrill of the win, the peace of the resolution, or the expansion of the success in the present moment. When you combine a clear intention with an elevated emotion, signaling your genes to change, you are telling your body that the environment has changed, and the body, being the objective mind, must respond by upgrading its biology. You are essentially becoming a new person in the laboratory of your own mind. Think about a professional musician or an elite athlete. They don't just practice on the field or with the instrument, they practice in the theater of the mind. They see the play, they feel the muscles moving, they hear the crowd, experience the satisfaction of the perfect execution. By the time they step into the actual event, they are no longer trying to perform. They are simply watching the program they have already installed run its course. For the successful mind, not a series of random events that they are trying to manage. Life is the unfolding of the mental movies they have been playing in their internal world. They have become so familiar with the feeling of their future that they are no longer surprised when it shows up. In fact, they would be surprised if it didn't show up because they have already lived it 1,000 times in the quiet of their own consciousness. Process requires you to be so focused that you lose track of time and space. You must become more interested in what is happening inside of you than what is happening outside of you. When you reach that state of total immersion, the analytical mind tells you this isn't real, or you're just sitting in a chair. It finally goes quiet. In that silence, the subconscious mind is wide open. This is where the real programming happens. You are planting seeds in the fertile soil of the deep mind. You are watering them with the elevated emotion of gratitude. Those seeds must grow. You are no longer hoping or wishing for a better life. You are executing the blueprint of one. People fail at this because they give up when they don't see immediate results in their external world. They do the rehearsal for a few days, look around, see that their bank account is the same or their health hasn't shifted, conclude that it isn't working. But the successful individual knows that the physical world is the last thing to change. It is the densest form of energy. They understand that the neurological and energetic changes must happen first. They keep rehearsing because they are more in love with the vision than they are tethered to the current reality. They stay in the state of the already accomplished until the external world has no choice but to conform to the internal world. It is the ultimate form of self-mastery. You are choosing to be the creator of your life by using the very tools, your brain and your body, that were once used to keep you stuck in the past. You are turning your nervous system into a library of the future rather than a record of the past. And that is how the impossible becomes the inevitable. To truly step into a new reality, understand the nature of the analytical mind and why it often serves as the greatest barrier to your transformation. The analytical mind is that part of your consciousness that categorizes, judges, evaluates, and compares. It is the voice that is constantly looking at your current environment and comparing it to your past memories to see if things are safe or predictable. While this function is necessary for navigating the three-dimensional world, a prison when you are trying to create something that has never existed before. The analytical mind is deeply tied to the ego and the personality, and it lives entirely within the realm of the known. To change, you must move beyond this critical faculty and enter the deeper operating system of the subconscious mind, where your habits, behaviors, and identity are actually stored. Think of the analytical mind as a gatekeeper that stands between your conscious awareness and your subconscious programs. For most people, this gatekeeper is incredibly rigid. It filters every new thought through the lens of what has already happened. If you try to tell yourself that you are abundant while your bank account is empty, the analytical mind immediately steps in and says, "No, you're not. Look at the numbers." It rejects the new information because it doesn't match the current sensory data. This is why positive thinking alone rarely works. You are trying to put a thin layer of good thoughts over a massive mountain of bad feelings and deeply ingrained subconscious programs. To make a real change, you have to find a way to get past the gatekeeper so that you can rewrite the code of your life at the source. Successful people have mastered the ability to move beyond the self and slip into the state of the observer. They know how to lower the volume of the analytical mind so they can enter the realm of the subconscious. Usually happens when we move out of the high beta brainwave state, the state of high stress and emergency, and into the alpha or theta states. In these slower brainwave frequencies, the door to the subconscious mind swings wide open. This is the place of no thing, no one, no where, and no time. It is a state of pure consciousness where you are no longer defined by your name, your profession, your past mistakes, or your physical body. You are simply an awareness in an infinite field of information. When you are in this void, you are no longer limited by the laws of your past reality. You are in the field of all possibilities, and it is from this place of nothingness that everything is created. The analytical mind is fueled by the hormones of stress. When you are living in survival, you have to be analytical, you have to be on high alert, checking your environment to ensure your safety. When you learn to relax the body and focus on the space between your thoughts, the analytical mind begins to dissolve. You start to move from the narrow focus on objects and people to an open focus on the energy and the space around you. Shift in attention causes the brain to synchronize. The different compartments of the brain that were once segregated and out of sync begin to communicate in a coherent harmony. You are essentially taking the out of the equation so that a higher intelligence can take over. This is where the magic happens. This is where spontaneous healings, profound insights, and massive shifts in perspective occur. If you want to reprogram your life, you cannot do it as the person you are. You have to become no one. You have to leave the old personality at the door. Most people find this terrifying because they are addicted to their identity, even if that identity is one of suffering. They don't know who they would be without their problems or their history. But the visionary understands that the old identity is exactly what is keeping them stuck. They are willing to lose themselves in the meditation, in the work, in the creative process until they are nothing but a point of consciousness. In that state, they can begin to plant the seeds of a new future without the interference of the cynical, analytical voice that says it's impossible. They are working in the realm of energy, and energy is the blueprint that the physical world eventually follows. The transition beyond the analytical mind requires a surrender of control. You have to stop trying to force the outcome or analyze how it's going to happen. You have to trust that when you enter the subconscious realm with a clear intention and an elevated emotion, you are literally changing your destiny. You are moving from being a victim of your biology to being the architect of your energy. The more you practice getting beyond yourself, the easier it becomes to stay in that state of flow throughout your day. You begin to realize that the analytical mind is just a tool, not the master. You learn to use it when you need to balance your checkbook or plan your schedule, but you never let it define what is possible for your life. By transcending the self, you tap into a source of wisdom and power that is far greater than your limited ego. You become a conduit for a higher order of intelligence, and you begin to walk through the world with a sense of certainty that the analytical mind can never understand. It is the secret of those who achieve the extraordinary. They know how to get out of their own way and let the creative power of the field do the heavy lifting for them. One of the most profound shifts in the consciousness of a truly successful person is the move from trying to control the how to mastering the what and the why. Most people are conditioned by a world of cause and effect to believe that they must laboriously plot every single step of their journey. They spend their lives trying to predict the future based on the limited data of their past. And in doing so, they inadvertently limit the infinite possibilities of the quantum field to the narrow confines of their own analytical thinking. When you try to figure out how your success will arrive, you are essentially trying to solve a problem using the same level of consciousness that created the lack in the first place. You are looking for a door in a wall that you built with your own memories. The moment you obsess over the mechanics of how your dream will manifest, you are signaling to the universe that you don't believe it has already happened. You are back in a state of lack, waiting for something outside of you to change how you feel inside of you. Relinquishing the how is not an act of laziness or a lack of planning. It is an act of supreme spiritual and intellectual confidence. It is the understanding that there is a higher intelligence, a bridge of incidents, field of information that is far more capable of organizing reality than your limited human ego. When you set a clear intention and you marry it with a heart-centered emotion like gratitude or joy, you have done your part of the creative process. Your job is to define the destination and to live in the emotional state of that destination as if you have already arrived. The how is the responsibility of the unified field. When you try to manage the how, you are essentially getting in the way of the very intelligence that manages the positions of the stars and the functions of your own cells. You are trying to micromanage the infinite, and that only leads to stress, frustration, eventual collapse of your creative vision back into the predictable patterns of your old life. To live in a state of relinquishment, you must cultivate a profound sense of gratitude before the event occurs. Gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership. Our physical world, we usually say thank you after we receive something. But in the quantum realm, you say thank you because you have already experienced the reality in your mind and heart. When you are truly grateful, you are signaling to every cell in your body and every photon in the field that the event has already taken place. This emotional signature is what pulls the experience to you. You can stay in that state of thank you and stop looking for the evidence in your external environment. You stop the frantic how thinking. You move into a state of trust. You begin to understand that if you are vibrationally aligned with your future, you don't have to go and get it. It has to find you. It will come in a way that you could never have predicted. In a way that surprises you and leaves no doubt that it was a result of your internal transformation. It requires a departure from the Newtonian model of reality, which is based on the predictable and the measurable, and an entry into the quantum model, which is based on the unpredictable and the infinite. If you can predict exactly how your success is going to happen, then that success is likely just a slightly better version of your past. It isn't a true quantum leap. A true breakthrough is always a surprise. It comes from left field. It happens through a chance meeting, an unexpected phone call, or a sudden flash of insight that changes everything. If you're too busy trying to force it to happen through a specific channel, you might miss the infinite other channels that are trying to deliver your result. By letting go of the how, you open up all the valves. You become a wide open vessel for opportunity. Successful people spend more time refining their internal state than they do manipulating their external environment. They know that if they get the energy right, the physical world will eventually reorganize itself to match that energy. This is the difference between doing and being. When you are in doing mode, you are grinding, pushing, and forcing, which is often a result of the survival emotions of competition and fear. When you are in being mode, you are radiating, attracting, allowing. You are still taking action, but that action is inspired rather than desperate. It is action taken from a state of wholeness rather than a state of lack. You are no longer trying to bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be, because internal consciousness, you are already there. The ego hates this process because the ego wants to be the hero. It wants to claim all the credit for the hard work and the complex strategy. But the true master knows that the less me, there is power, there is. By stepping out of the way and refusing to obsess over the timeline or the method, you allow the synchronicity of the universe to take over. You begin to notice that things start happening with a strange and beautiful ease. Show up to help you, resources appear when you need them, and the path unfolds beneath your feet as you walk it. This is the state of grace that occurs when you finally stop trying to be the general of the universe and start being the architect of your own energy. You realize that your only responsibility is to maintain the frequency of your future and to let the how take care of itself. In this surrender, you find the ultimate freedom. and the most direct path to the life you were meant to live. Final and perhaps most essential shift in the psychology of the successful mind is the absolute commitment to sustaining an elevated emotion long before the physical environment provides a reason to do so. This is the hallmark of the true visionary, the ability to feel the joy, the freedom, the expansion, and the gratitude of a future reality while your current senses are still reporting a reality of lack, struggle, or stagnation. Most people are victims of their environment. They feel bad when something good happens, and they feel bad when something bad happens. This means their internal state is a direct reflection of their external circumstances. They're essentially living in a state of reaction, allowing the world around them to determine how they feel and how they think. But to create a life that transcends the ordinary, you must flip this equation on its head. You must become the cause of your life rather than the effect of it. If you are waiting for wealth to feel abundant, or waiting for a new relationship to feel loved, or waiting for a healing to feel whole, you are still living by the old Newtonian rules of cause and effect. You are waiting for something there to change so that you can feel better in here. The problem with this model is that it keeps you in a state of perpetual waiting, which is a state of lack. When you live in lack, you are signaling to the quantum field that you do not have what you desire, and the field, which is objective, simply reflects that lack back to you. Successful people understand that the only way to manifest a new future is to find the feeling of that future and then maintain it until it becomes your new baseline. They practice the emotion of their success until their body literally begins to believe it is already living in that reality. This is not a mental game, it is a biological imperative. When you sustain an elevated emotion, you are signaling genes to move into a state of growth and repair. When you are changing the electromagnetic signature you are broadcasting into the world. Sustaining this emotion requires a level of discipline that far exceeds physical labor. It is easy to feel inspired when you are listening to a great speech or standing on a mountaintop, but the real work happens when you are stuck in traffic, dealing with a difficult person, or looking at a bank balance that hasn't changed yet. In those moments, body will try to return to its familiar chemical state of frustration or worry. It will try to pull you back into the past. The successful mind catches this movement and consciously chooses to return to the elevated emotion. They realize that every moment they spend in a state of stress or lack, they are disconnecting from the future they are trying to build. They treat their emotional state as their most valuable asset. They know that if they lose their joy or their sense of gratitude, they have lost their power to create. Therefore, they guard their energy with an iron will, refusing to let the temporary shadows of the three-dimensional world dictate their internal life. When you maintain an elevated emotion such as gratitude, you are essentially in a state of receivership. Gratitude is the emotional signature that an event has already happened. When you are grateful, you are at peace. You aren't looking for the result because you already feel the fullness of it, where the magic of the quantum field is activated. When your internal state is so coherent and so powerful that it no longer matters what the external world looks like, you have reached the point of mastery. You are no longer separate from your dreams. You are one with them. You start to walk differently, speak differently, and perceive the world through a completely different lens. Because you are no longer looking for what is missing, you begin to see opportunities that were always there but were invisible to your old self. You become a match for the experiences you desire. You are no longer in a state of desperate chasing. Those experiences begin to gravitate toward you with an effortless grace. This process of sustaining the elevated emotion eventually leads to a shift in your personality. In turn, creates a new personal reality. Your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. If you keep your feelings elevated, you will naturally think better thoughts and take better actions. Over time, it becomes your new habitual self. You no longer have to try to feel successful, you simply are successful. The body has been conditioned to a new mind. You have moved from the labor of trying to the ease of being. You realize that you were never waiting for the world to give you permission to be happy. You were the one holding the keys the entire time. By refusing to let the external environment lower your frequency, you become a sovereign being. You become the master of your destiny because you have mastered the internal chemistry of your own soul. This is the ultimate secret of those who achieve the impossible. They lived in the beauty of their dream so consistently that the dream had no choice but to manifest in the physical world. They didn't see it to believe it. They felt it until it became the only thing they could see. You want to see a different result in your world, you have to stop being you've been for the last 20 years. You have to step into the unknown. because the unknown is the only place where anything new can happen.